Good afternoon, people, and welcome back. This one's probably going to be a little bit of a longer one, so buckle up, settle in. So, it's all one big conspiracy. Anybody that pays attention to news, conspiracies, or even political events and shared their views from the things they've seen, we've all heard that plenty of times. It's all one big conspiracy. But for those people who are mockingly and sarcastically asking the question, yes, it is. Today I'm going to say about linking all the big conspiracy together for you. See, individually I can understand why people fail to see this, but the thing with history, and especially the video age we're in now, a lot of these events are being recorded, and so many of them look strange. They have anomalies that wouldn't usually expect to see, but I'll go into that more on that side of things later. For now, I just want to show you a quick video I put together to demonstrate my first point.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. went on the Dr. Phil show recently, and a member of the audience asked him this question. She said, "My biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us, bromium, aluminum. They're sprayed in our skies all day long. How do we stop it?" Now, this sounds a lot like the conspiracy theory about chemtrails. Now, if you haven't heard of it, some people believe that those white streaks you see behind airplanes in the sky are chemtrails that then fall on people and cause various health problems. Well, it's not true. Scientists have been researching this and debunking it for years. This Washington Post article is from 2016, and yet this, what you're about to see, is how Kennedy responded to that question.
It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Those materials are put in jet fuel.
Are conventional, but if we scroll all the way down, it says contains bioengineered food ingredients. Now, what does that mean? It means that they have GMO ingredients, which they're going to have levels of glyphosate. That's an herbicide. And General Mills, who owns this company, dropped the 100% natural because they got sued.
How much is in my system? How much is in my kid's system? Is it going to kill them before they get a life? It's hard to say. PFAS in West Virginia, New Mexico, Arizona, Wisconsin. I mean, it's showing its face everywhere.
So how did this happen? How did forever chemicals end up in our waste? And who put the poison there in the first place?
Poisoning kids from the time they're born until the time we're seniors, so it's a problem. The chemicals in our food supply are a major, major problem. Number two, like an example would be glyphosate, Roundup, as an herbicide pesticide. It's in our food supply. I think, as you know, in Europe, they have much better restrictions on chemicals in the foods. That's why we need, leaders, administrative officials who are going to take care of this problem.
There's something wrong with this cow, and they keep trying to tell me there's nothing wrong with these things. I can call the West Virginia State Veterinarian, Doc Thomas, and the only thing he asked me is, do you have a good attorney?
And when Mr. Tennant first reached out to me and was concerned about his cattle, We thought, this is going to be a fairly straightforward, quick, easy case. We had no idea that we would be dealing with PFAS or any of these completely unregulated man-made chemicals.
So that was a quick video on the claims that government and elites are poisoning us, and as you can see, they mess with the sea, the land, the air, everything around you. They don't let it stop there. So they put known toxic chemicals and carcinogenic chemicals in your food as well. So not only are you being poisoned from the outside in, you're also being poisoned from the inside out as well. When you're thinking about that, it kind of makes it so you're doing it to yourself. You're not allowing them to do it, you're doing it to yourself. They always have the excuse of sugar, fat, saturated fat, caffeine. They poison themselves in the chamber when they get blamed for things. Like, most people aren't even aware that there's different kinds of sugars. There's beet sugar and sugar cane, for example. One's not as bad for you, and beet sugar is really bad for you, but it's synthetic, easier to make product when you're pumping it into absolutely everything you can. So it's not even just the products you're consuming. A lot of the products you're consuming are being hidden behind synthetic versions of what it should be in there. Like, even if it was the good version of it for you, like going down the line of, you'll get different types of oil. Like, vegetable oils are really bad for you because a lot of them are made from synthetic products. We see with the medical industry as well, half of the drugs they give you don't only cause terrible side effects. Some include removing yourself, thoughts of self-deletion tendencies when being taken for depression, which is one of the more obvious ones that face someone with, or you give someone facing depression, already feeling low and rubbish, and they give them something that will chemically induce the feeling of self-deletion. That's not just a quinky dink. So, moving on from the poisoning of the human system portion of the video, I want to get right to the subversion of the human mind and their political system. So, you believe all your views are right because you've researched them and you've settled on what you believe because of all the information you have. But what if it's suggested that you've been profiled and fed an algorithm for years at this point? Let's go back, over 100 years to the introduction of the Fabian Society in British politics, and a quick rundown of their views, their plans, and not only how that affects British politics, but the British family, the workplace, and how they wanted to affect what man believed. So, I'll run an RV video for you.
See, most people have never heard of the Fabian Society, and that's exactly how they like it. Quiet, polite, academic, but massively influential. If you've ever wondered why Britain feels like it's been nudged for decades in one direction, today's bigger government, social engineering, and endless long-term planning, well, that never seems to involve you. Well, that's Fabianism. They don't riot in the streets, they don't storm parliaments, they sit in libraries and think tanks writing papers and slowly bending politics to their will, a literal wolf in sheep's clothing. Their own logo was a wolf wearing a sheepskin. They even brag about the method: gradual, sneaky, persistent. So today, I'm breaking down exactly who the Fabians are. I have done this before many times, but you probably didn't see it. Where they came from, how they built the Labour Party in their image, and why their fingerprints are still all over politics today. From Tony Blair's third way to Keir Starmer's obsession with managed decline dressed up as progress. And I'll show you how this 140-year club of intellectuals still feeds the same unelected elitist agenda we see with groups like the World Economic Forum. Because if you don't know Fabianism, you don't really understand how Britain got here. In 1884 in London. Its key figures were Sidney Webb, his wife Beatrice Webb, playwright George Bernard Shaw, and a handful of other middle-class intellectuals. Their mission, to bring socialism to Britain, but not the fiery, revolutionary Marxism of the barricades. No, their genius, or their trick, depending on your view, was patience. They believed socialism could be achieved not through revolution, but through slow infiltration.
Now, he's explained a little bit of what the Fabian Society is. Now, Mr. Webb, that he mentioned as being one of the founding fathers of the Fabian Society. I'll run a wee video of, what he has to say for society.
Yes, to all punishment whatsoever. I don't want to punish anybody. But there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill. Yes, to all punishment whatsoever. I don't want to punish anybody. But there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill. Not in any unkind or personal spirit, but it must be evident to all of you. You must all know half a dozen people at least who are no use in this world, who are more trouble than they are worth. And I think it would be a good thing to make everybody come before a properly appointed board, just as he might come before the income tax commissioners, and say every 5 years or every 7 years, just put him there and say, sir or madam, now will you be kind enough to justify your existence? If you can't justify your existence, if you're not pulling your weight in the social boat, if you're not producing as much as you consume, or perhaps a little more, then clearly we cannot use the big organization of our society for the purpose of keeping you alive, because your life does not benefit us and it can't be of very much use.
So there you see the words of one of the founding fathers of the Fabian Society. But who else is involved in the Fabian Society? And have you ever heard of them?
The Fabian Society. You see, Ramsay MacDonald, the first Labour Prime Minister, was a Fabian. Clement Attlee, who built the post-war welfare state, was a Fabian. And Tony Blair was the chairman of the Fabian Society before he became Prime Minister. Even Keir Starmer is a long-standing Fabian. It's like a conveyor belt. The party might change faces, but the Fabian blueprint stays the same. And their big moment was 1945. Clement Attlee's Labour government rolled out the NHS, nationalised industries, expanded welfare, and reshaped Britain after the war. The Fabians saw it as their triumph, and in many ways it was. But here's the catch. It wasn't revolution, it was bureaucracy. More control, more state, more centralisation, and once those structures are in, they rarely get rolled back.
So, as we've seen here, we have a secret society shaping views and politicians from the inside. And the thing about that is to control the schools, the police, the hospitals. When people talk about two-tier care, Fabian. When people say he's going to be replaced by Andy Burnham, Fabian. And I already showed you earlier on Mr. Shaw and his ideology of the useless people. When you look at all the Bill Gates gaffes where they can decrease population by 10% and all the eugenics, all the elites appear to be involved in both sides of the pond, seemingly loving all this eugenic stuff, and they're all talking about getting useless eaters gone. That's us. And one thing about the Fabian Society's handbook is something that leads me nicely to my third stage in connecting all the dots is control. So, there's many ways to gain control, but the biggest issue in Europe today is the immigration crisis. When you look at the Fabian Society, we're so happy to do away with people that they didn't see relevance for. You might have seen one of the founding members suggest the 5 to 7 year reviews couple of minutes ago. Now, how do you get in a position to enact that kind of power? See, it's a Fabian society fantasy that the goal and the common produce customer doesn't have any kids. So me and you, so we're just consumers. We don't have any kids. So to put that another way, they'll have they'll be constructively shaping all the collective countries to not be able to afford to have many kids. Cost of living crisis, prices through the roof, things for rent, like the hoops you have to jump through to get a mortgage that's only 60 to 70% of the rent you would be paying, right down to things like forced car insurance when the insurance company might not even pay out at the end of it if you have an accident. Everything just seems structured to work to benefit other people, but never actually me and you. Now, pair that with bringing in a different faith, big families, and encouraging them to have children whilst making it economically more challenging for locals to do the same. The bigger housing council executive houses all get given to migrant families, forcing the locals to rent locally, meaning their income is a natural slump compared to others around them. And it's like a lot of the doctrine, and even going back to like the Bible and stuff like that, they say that, you know, foreigners around you will have money to lend, but you will not. It all goes back as far as that. And that brings me basically to the violence part of control. So, let's not pretend we can't see what's been set up here. The truth of the matter is, we can't do nothing about it. We're in it. And whilst I'm talking about Muslims coming here, all of a sudden there's a little known video from Afghanistan stating that the next part of their war is overseas and in Europe. Now, about 15 years ago, which leads me wonderfully on to my fourth point. How did America leave $40 billion in arms in Afghanistan? Right as Afghanistan are announcing that the next part of their war is in Europe. So, point 4 of all being connected is what the fuck is happening in the world, and more to the point, the Middle East. So, these people are coming here. I don't like it, you don't like it. We don't like the fact someone wants to assert their religion and their faith on the wider British areas. Again, it's not just small areas. It's like Manchester, Birmingham, London, Glasgow, Belfast, Dublin. They're the big cities in these towns or in these countries that matter. And then when you go further abroad in Europe, you've got Paris, Brussels. I know it's like you've got a lot of places in Germany, Italy, Spain, Denmark, Sweden, Holland. You know, you've got all these places that are being overrun, and they all seem to have the same issue with people coming to their countries for a better life and acting the way they do. Why are they coming here? There's a few reasons. You are going to have the migrant that does come for the better life, but the ones that are coming here, I believe they're being sent here. There's no doubt about that now. When you see we're all in the business of connecting dots and showing it's all connected. You look at any country that's been having the problems with Islamist takeovers, you'll find a strange anomaly: American interventionism. So how come America can go into all these countries and get rid of all the dictators and all their fans, but they can't seem to stop Islam terror groups controlling every country they go into? They can get rid of communism, no problem. Take over countries, no problem. But when it's Islam, they just can't do nothing about it. I don't understand. There's an issue there. Then, whilst we're in the business of connecting dots, you look at America's relationship with Israel and how their Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said they fund Hamas because they're pivotal to the greater Israel project. And because we're in the business of connecting dots, sit back and think that's exactly why Hamas would kill Palestinians when they announced a ceasefire, and why Hamas supposedly found harvesting all the food and not giving Palestinians food, because they were working for Israel in the first place. They were within the grounds behind the enemy lines, and they also served as a boogeyman for Israel to salt and pepper them relentlessly when they wanted to. It's kind of like at home when the IRA down south in Northern Ireland have made statements that if you want to destroy HMOs or make illegals leave and feel uncomfortable, they're going to come after you. Who's funding that statement? Because that's completely anti the people of those areas. But there's somebody behind the statements where the people of the areas will happily go against their beliefs and protecting their areas because somebody is funding them. See, when I say it's all connected, what you also have to look at is the names of the people who run these companies, get the secret contracts, the big contracts to manufacture weapons, technology, and who makes the decisions to go into these wars and invade these countries and flooding their streets with terroristic ideology. Well, I say that, flooding our streets with terroristic ideology. And that'll lead me nicely to my fifth and final point. So far, I've shown you the elites are poisoning your air, land, water, and food. They have ideologies that implement struggles on our people at home, whilst they encourage other people to come here. Also notice the people who come here don't eat unless it's halal or kosher, so they're not even eating the same guff that they'll give us. I've shown you that these people have a clear path from society discussing issues to it being law and being passed. Their private school education is more of an ideology strengthening camp for the chosen ones. And again, you need to be part of the right families and the right bloodlines. It's not just random people. Like, as I was saying, it's like how there's a pattern of America going to communist countries and throwing the communist dictators out the country, but they can't do it with Islam. At the same time, these people have announced that their next part of their war is in Europe. So I digress from that. It's again, we'll smash on to number 5 and the final point: smart technology. So it makes everything easier. Your phone's brilliant. Everything's great. It's great to have the Hoover on, click. You can literally link your whole life to an Alexa. What's stopping that being databased under one profile? You look at it where things are going at the minute. It's like global warming stuff. Like, this is where we're clearly going down a carbon neutral agenda. I mean, just a side note there. It's like global warming. I could hazard a strong guess that global warming could be to do with gas in the skies and keeping the atmosphere not able to breathe and get out of the big man-made cloud. Kind of like when you put a fire and put it in a tent, and then you put the tent around the fire and it stops the heat expanding to a point where it's no longer going to keep you warm. You sort of keep the heat in. And if you're gas in the skies and they're keeping clouds in, naturally the place is going to warm up. And to that point, there's also official documents going back about 75 years ago now saying about whether they're not allowed to use weather modification weapons. So they've had 70 odd years to refine that. There's actual documents saying that they, like, between countries saying that they think this is too harsh to actually use. And if you've had 75 years to refine a weapon that they didn't want to use at the time, imagine what you could do now with it when you look at something like a mobile phone and what's been able to advance from that in about 20 years. Like, I remember bringing this up about heart modification because it was all a conspiracy until they announced they were spraying the skies. Even they saw they were spraying the skies was a conspiracy. They never had weather manipulation, or they can't do all this, and then it's over spraying the skies, and you sort of gently remind everybody that in Dubai they've been cloud seeding, making it rain for years. And the thing is, it all sort of works endlessly. Even like heart's a frequency thing. In this big, wonderful electrical magnetic world, frequency is king. Which leads me to part 2 of the smart tech and weapons, the Skynet system Elon Musk is implementing around the world, called Starlink. And it seems to offer wonderful internet from all the ads I've seen, and they're always willing to tell you how much it's going to advance your life. But there's also another division of that same company that works with the same technology, and it's called Starshield. Think Israel's Iron Dome, using frequencies to physically create a block on physical metal and other projectile materials, like frequency blocking it. And where that technology becomes interesting is to the average human is carbon neutral and smart cities, where theoretically you can drive outside your 15-minute city, and because of geofencing and your electric car gets switched off, or you're returned home because they drive themselves. Like, if they can have a geofence that can sort of link you to your exact location, they can control how far out of your home you go. And when you actually think about everything that's going on at the minute with the invasion of Britain and all that there stuff, just imagine that it's Elon Musk that has made a lot of this actually go viral, and he already has a couple of the contracts for this weaponry in Britain. So it largely benefits him when it comes to, seeding disorder. And if you link that to your phone through social ID, maybe moved into a credit system, oh, you left your 15-minute zone, we're going to have to suspend your car for 4 days to bring you back to carbon neutral. By the way, it's that you're the carbon they want to delete. I showed you at the beginning of the video, your man Shaw, because you're a useless eater. So that is the carbon. You are the carbon that they want to delete. So that's today's video. I thank you for watching. I've ran you from how the same people are destroying your food, your land, your air, your water. They've put in place policies that's going to make you more likely or less likely to have kids, whilst inviting people here who are more likely to have kids. And then when you go further one up the chain, you've got the displacement of other people, and the strange coincidence that every time a country is overrun by Islam, you have American interventionism somewhere in the country for the last anything up to 300 years at this point, for their whole existence. They were in Tunisia in 1780s. They were the first African country, or I think they were the first country, one of the first countries to acknowledge the USA as a country. So it can go so much deeper, and the thing is, it's like we can look at all the individual decisions and stuff that all these people are doing, because it's a lot more. These guys that I've mentioned are just the main characters. There's plenty of people doing it. So in contrast to Elon Musk, you have Peter Thiel, who's also doing a lot of the same thing. They don't just do one person covers everything. They all cover it. So before we go, just let you know, so this video took time to research, put together and edit for you guys. Stop acting like hitting the like button or subscribe button. All your mates will see you're a big conspiracy theorist. Nobody sees it. So like, comment, subscribe. We're all waking up to what we've been getting shafted for the last couple of centuries. And if you like that kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, join in with my channel, and we'll get more up for you as soon as we can. Enjoy your day.